You might be wondering exactly how the Central Vigilance Commission fits into India's anti-corruption architecture and why it often appears both powerful and powerless at the same time. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about the CVC, its origin, role, powers, limits, and why it matters for your UPSC answers. Think of this as a simple map for beginners, so the maze of committees, acts, and agencies becomes easy to remember. First, imagine a timeline that starts in the 1940s and leads to the CVC we know today. In 1941, the Special Police Establishment was created to investigate corruption linked to wartime supplies, and this eventually evolved into the CBI by 1963. On the recommendations of the Santhanam Committee, the Central Vigilance Commission was set up in 1964 as an apex advisory body to guide vigilance work across central government departments. Initially, the CVC had no constitutional or statutory backing, but Parliament gave it statutory status through the CVC Act in 2003. That change mattered because the Act clarified functions, jurisdiction, and working relations with other agencies. So what does the CVC actually do day to day? Its core role is to receive complaints of corruption or misuse of office, advise central ministries and public sector organizations, and point out systemic failures through its annual reports. Visualize the CVC as a referee rather than a policeman. It points out fouls, recommends penalties, and guides investigations, but it normally does not arrest or file criminal cases by itself. For investigations, the CVC relies on the CBI or on chief vigilance officers located inside departments, so its strength often depends on cooperation with those agencies. The CVC is empowered to inquire into offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act for certain categories of public servants, which gives it statutory teeth in specific situations. An easy analogy is to see the system as three layers: the CVC providing oversight and direction, CBI doing major investigations, and CVOs handling internal vigilance in departments. A few historical and legal landmarks shape the CVC's authority and duties. The Supreme Court's Vineet Narain judgment in 1997 strengthened the CVC's supervisory role over investigations and made clear judicial expectations about independent action against corruption. After the murder of whistleblower Satyendra Dubey, government rules and later the Whistleblowers Protection Act assigned the CVC a key role in receiving and protecting disclosures. The Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act of 2013 further modified the CVC Act by allowing the Commission to conduct preliminary inquiries and handle Lokpal referrals for many categories of officers. All these laws expanded the CVC's responsibilities, but also created more coordination tasks with other institutions. Now a quick look at governance. The Commission is a multi-member body led by a Central Vigilance Commissioner and up to 2 Vigilance Commissioners. They are appointed by the President on the recommendation of a committee chaired by the Prime Minister and including the Home Minister and Leader of Opposition. And they serve for 4 years or until age 65, whichever comes earlier. The Secretariat includes wings like the Chief Technical Examiners and Commissioners for Departmental Inquiries, and the CVC depends on CBI and CVOs for investigations. Jurisdiction under the CVC Act covers members of the All India Services serving the Union, Group A officers of the central government, senior officers in public sector banks, RBI Grade D and above in certain institutions, and senior executives in PSUs and insurance companies. You may ask how the CVC handles whistleblowers and disclosures. Since the PIDPI rules and the Whistleblowers Protection Act, the CVC receives complaints, takes steps to protect informers, and can order preliminary inquiries and follow-up actions. The CVC also took an initiative called the Integrity Index, developed with IIM Ahmedabad, to measure governance and transparently rate public organizations on integrity. But here is the key exam confusion cleared. The CVC is primarily advisory and supervisory, not a full investigative or prosecuting agency, which limits direct action against senior officials. In practice, the Commission cannot file criminal cases on its own against officers at or above the Joint Secretary level, and it depends on institutional resources it does not fully control. That is why critics call it relatively independent but resource constrained. And a frequent exam angle asks about its strengths and weaknesses. For UPSC, remember two exam-friendly lines. The CVC is the apex vigilance institution for the central government, and it gained statutory status in 2003 but remains mainly advisory with investigative dependence on the CBI and CVOs. Questions often focus on its constitutional status, jurisdictional reach, relationship with CBI and Lokpal, and the limits highlighted by landmark judgments and subsequent laws. Let me recap the essentials so you can answer crisp mains and interview questions. The CVC was formed on Santhanam Committee recommendations in 1964, made statutory in 2003, acts as a supervisory and advisory watchdog, receives complaints and recommends action, and relies on CBI and CVOs for probes. Its governance is by a three-member commission appointed by a high-level committee, and it has expanded roles under Lokpal and whistleblowers laws, but clear operational limits remain. One subtle point many aspirants miss, and we will highlight it now, is how the CVC's influence depends less on formal powers and more on institutional trust, coordination, and public visibility. That is the key idea. Reform of vigilance is as much about process design, capacity building, and transparency as it is about statutory authority. So for answers, combine legal facts with practical limitations and recent reforms to show depth of understanding. You are now ready to frame balanced answers on CVC for prelims, mains, and interviews with both facts and critical insight. If you want a crisp revision sheet and model answers tailored for UPSC-style questions, continue with EduRev for targeted notes and practice questions. Keep revisiting key acts, landmark judgments, and the relationship between CVC, CBI, and Lokpal to sharpen your answers. Good work today. Stay curious and keep building examples from recent cases to make your answers stand out. For more videos like this and question banks to test the concept, join EduRev and practice regularly with timed tests. See you in the next lesson, where we will break down CBI, Lokpal, and their interplay with the CVC for further clarity.